AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org. golf.breck.org.
NBA free agency now officially in full swing, and the Pels were movers like literally as soon as free agency began. I mean, the first news that broke was Lonzo Ball, part of a sign and trade, headed to the Chicago Bulls, for which the Pelicans got a few pieces, including Garrett Temple and a draft pick. Andrew Lopez, ESPN.com, a Pelicans reporter, good enough to join us for a couple of minutes here. Thanks for the time, as always. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm still trying to piece together everything that happened yesterday and what may happen next, but I'm good.
Okay, let me just start then, because I have some very specific questions, but let me just start then with your overall feeling on how the day went.
You know, I think part of that still is going to come with what else happens, because I don't think they are finished making moves.
They can't be.
Right. And so for me, it's hard to even, I guess, form some type of opinion on what happened yesterday, knowing that there's more moves coming. And I think that was kind of the thing that was the big thing on Twitter right away yesterday, right? All right, we're 30 minutes in. Let's judge the Pelicans on their entire offseason. Like,
right.
Hold on. Let's just wait a second. But I do think maybe some more things are happening. Obviously, Josh Hart is not signed yet. He is still a restricted free agent, so that could be something. Thomas Satoransky, one of the pieces that they did get back from the Bulls, other than Garrett Temple, he could possibly maybe be on the move. Like, there's still other things that could go down. But for what did happen, Lonzo to Chicago seemed inevitable. I know there were some people like, oh my God, like all we got back for Lonzo was this. You're not getting the full value back for Lonzo. You're getting what the Bulls are paying you to not match that contract. So you're not getting equal value for what somebody like Lonzo is worth. That's one thing. On the flip side, if that's what you were going to do and you knew you were going to let him go, you could make the argument, okay, you should have done it at the trade deadline, especially with Chicago, where you could have got back Lauri Markkanen, a 7-foot 3-point shooter who is oft injured, but you probably had a use for him on this team, especially next to somebody like Zion. So if that's your argument, okay. But overall, you were able to get some pieces back for Lonzo. On the flip to Devontae Graham, giving up a lottery protected first, I'm not as thrilled with, especially for a guy from Charlotte who was already kind of lost his starting spot at the end of the year behind Terry Rozier and LaMelo Ball. They go out and draft a guard in James Bouknight, the kid from UConn who slid to them at 11 in the draft. So you kind of, I don't know if they would have matched that, but you did get him at a value deal. There were a couple of projection sites out there that had thought Devontae Graham would get like $17, $18 million a year. You got him for $447. So you got some value there. Whether he starts, whether he's a sixth man, I think is going to be determined by some of these other moves. He is a very good catch and shoot guy. So kind of a little bit better than Lonzo's numbers there. But like Lonzo, he can't finish in the paint. Like Lonzo, he doesn't finish at the rim. But he is a better overall, I think, shooter when he does actually get jump shots up. So I like maybe getting Lonzo. I mean, I like Graham at 47 more than I like Lonzo at 85. But the other assets that you had to give up kind of muck that situation up a little bit.
Right. Okay, so let's go to the Lonzo trade for a second. Listen, and you didn't match this offer sheet for the same reason. It's basically you would have been repeating the mistake of the Eric Gordon deal, where the guy didn't want to be here, and it was a mess the rest of the time he was here. You let him go, get what you can. Why? Is it just a mistake in hindsight that they didn't move him at the deadline?
I mean, I think at the deadline, you still had a thought that you were going to make a playoff push. And if you would have moved him at the deadline, you would have had a big hole at point guard. You end up having more injuries. So, but when you look at what you maybe could have got then, I don't know if they would have gotten that. I mean, the only thing they would have got would have been the right to try to pay Lauri Markkanen more money, which I think Chicago is struggling with right now. If you were going to pay, it was basically, did you want to pay Lauri Markkanen $20 million a year, or did you want to pay Lonzo Ball $20 million a year? So, but you're right. He did. He probably wanted to be more of a point guard back in his natural fit. He did adjust well, and kudos to Lonzo for adjusting to this more of a wing role, especially when they started to go to point Zion. But of what we've heard that was on the table then, I don't think it changed much, and I think you were going to try and at least make a push for the playoffs, and you probably would have liked Lonzo for that.
Okay, Satoransky and Temple, are they a part of this team next year?
Temple, yes, Temple for sure. Temple. Here was part of the confusing nature of what everything that happened yesterday. Technically, this is going to be it sounds like a double sign and trade where Garrett Temple, who was going to be a free agent, is coming back. The reason he got a 3-year deal, which was reported by Almore Spears, was going to be 2 years guaranteed, the last year non-guaranteed. If you were in a sign and trade, you have to have a 3-year contract. That's so, anybody couldn't just sign somebody off the street for a year, $30 million just to make salary cap work, and that person never plays again. It has to be a long-term deal. That's how sign and trades work in the NBA. Garrett Temple is coming in on a 3-year, $15 million deal, I believe. He is going to provide a locker room presence, a veteran presence, and be kind of that voice, I think, that Willie Green will lean on in the locker room. So I think Garrett is going to definitely be a part of this team moving forward. Satoransky, on the other hand, I'm not quite sure. He's coming in at I think a $10 million salary. In theory, he blocks Kyra's playing time at the point guard spot. And if you're really high on Kyra, I don't think you'd want that. So I think there is a possibility that maybe Sato could still get moved. But Temple, I feel like they are very much going to use on this roster.
Okay. When I look at, and Andrew Lopez is our guest, ESPN.com, on Twitter, @_Andrew_Lopez. When I look statistically at Graham and Lonzo, as far as their perimeter shooting, they're kind of the same guy, percentage-wise. So why? Like, especially where Zion really seemed to like Lonzo. I mean, is this literally just a thing where it's like, well, you can get him for about half the price?
It seems that way right now. I know there's a couple other things. Like I said, the catch and shoot numbers are a little bit better for Terry Rozier. I'm sorry, for Devontae Graham. He learned how to play more off the ball when he was playing with Terry Rozier and LaMelo Ball last year. So he got kind of used to not being the guy with the ball in his hand so much. I think he took almost like 90 more catch and shoot threes last year than he did the previous year. I'm
looking at it right here. Sorry, but this is from Second Spectrum. This is your piece at ESPN.com. So he went from 210 catch and shoot threes 2 years ago to 296 last year, and he shot 42.6% catch and shoot threes. So yes, there's a very drastic difference in the last.
And I think that's in actually a little bit fewer games because he spent some time hurt this year. So.
Okay.
So that, I mean, basically they're going to have a guy who shot 100 more threes of a certain type playing off the ball last year. He's got a little bit deeper range. And I think what you're looking at, especially when it comes to the assist-to-turnover ratio, I think that's a little bit better for Devontae Graham. It is getting a guy for $10 million a year less. And now, but the key part of this is, one, what do you do with this extra space? And two, I think the hang-up on Lonzo always was, did you want to pay Lonzo Ball $20-something million to be your third guy? And I think that is what, because of the kind of the roller coaster ride that Lonzo was, they didn't really know if they wanted to do that. Now you can go out and find somebody else to be that third guy in that salary range. And now you're probably going to have to go get them by trade, or maybe you look into next summer's free agency class. Like I said, I don't think they're done. I still think they could make some moves right now, but you may feel a little bit more comfortable with paying Devontae, a little less than $12 million a year than paying, Lonzo close to, 21.3 or whatever it's going to be.
All right. So last thing then, and this is the very obvious next part of this whole conversation, which is, and I agree, it is very hard to judge in totality this offseason because they're very clearly not done yet. But Kyle Lowry's not an option anymore. Chris Paul's not an option anymore. So who or what is an option for this team moving forward?
There's been some talk of a Reggie Jackson type, or something like that. I think what you're going to look at probably now is more of a trade market. When you look at the guys who are left on the market, there's not a lot of names that really jump at you. I could see, this is speculation, like going after somebody like a Paul Millsap with the ML, with the mid-level exception, and he can come in and play some 4 and 5 next to Z and stretch the floor a little bit. Outside of that, I think you're looking at what they can do with some trades right now. There are not that many guys who are still available, especially at the point guard spot. I know they really do like Nikhil. We saw what Nikhil did last year as a starter. That was nice. But when you start breaking it down, I think Kendrick Nunn actually, while we're on the phone, just signed with he just signed with the Los Angeles Lakers. That's another point guard off the board.
Is that a Woj bomb?
Shirt. That was. Just as we're talking. I think Lou Williams is out there. He's obviously not a traditional point guard. You get to some of the wings who are still out there. It's Kelly Oubre, I think, is out there. Obviously, you still have Josh Hart, Victor Oladipo, who's injured. It really starts to shrink in terms of what you can do. So I think you may look to maybe sign and trade Josh Hart, maybe just bring Josh Hart back, and then you have this bigger number of guys that you can end up trading when we get into training camp, and then maybe you move Satoransky's money. Because Satoransky, let me just clear this up right now. Satoransky is coming in this sign and trade. Unless they operate this into the Memphis trade, Shamit Dua has actually done a lot of, he can explain this a lot better than mine. He's at Fear the Brown on Twitter. He can do a lot better of this, but unless they put him into that deal, it's going to be hard to move. You can't move him in an aggregated deal where you take Sam Satoransky's money and compare it with somebody else and combine it with somebody else and move them right away. That's going to have to wait until October. So they can move Satoransky one-on-one, but those are just NBA sign and trade rules. So maybe something gets done now, maybe something gets done in October, but they are not. I do not believe they are done making moves, making up your 21-22 New Orleans Pelicans.
He is Andrew Lopez on Twitter at _Andrew_Lopez. Read his stuff over at ESPN.com. We'll have you back when it seems like they are done, and then we can look at it in total. But thanks for catching us up to this point. Thanks, man.
Sounds good.